what I really want to ask you is where you came up with the idea of your show. How did that happen? Was it your idea?
Yeah, I was finishing up Parks and Rec, and I wanted to do something that was really my voice. And I had that opportunity with stand-up, but I'd never really gotten to act anything that really felt like it was my voice. And I'd worked on some movie scripts and things like that, but you know, the movie world
Movies
is
are
so
hard.
slow. Yeah, it's very slow.
Yeah.
And sometimes I would develop scripts, and then by the time it was ready to do anything with it, I'd already moved beyond those ideas.
Right.
So I thought I should do a TV show, and I was friends with this guy that was a writer on Parks and Rec, Alan Yang, and we started talking about doing a series together, and we didn't really know what the series was going to be, but the idea was basically to kind of take my point of view that I've been developing in my stand-up and things like that, and explore that in a narrative form. And that was kind of the basic gist of the show.
Were you nervous to executive produce a series?
No, I was really excited because I'd wanted to do something like this. I remember a lot of the reviews that came out when the show first came out were like, oh wow, I didn't know he had the ability to act like this. And it's like, well, no one had ever written me something to act like that. And I feel like every actor feels like that at some point.
So
it's like,
true.
oh, I'm surprised. Well, that's because
That's because you put us in this box.
Yes, exactly.
This one thing that we can do.
I mean, it's interesting to think about. There's probably so many people that are capable of incredible things that just don't get the opportunity. I always say, if I didn't write Master of None, no one would have given me this part. Like if that was just a script that was out there, they'd be like, well, no, we can't. He can't do it. He just he just can't.
I felt the same. I felt like when I was executive producing Confirmation, like there was also this assumption, and nobody said it to me, I just felt like I was always fighting an assumption that I wasn't gonna be a figurehead, that I wasn't gonna be like just a producer in name, that I really wanted to do the work. Because I feel like often the assumption as an actor is that you just want the title of producer, but you don't want to be in the trenches. And that was the complete opposite of what I wanted.
I have suggested that I was afraid of retaliation. I was afraid of damage to my professional life. I believe that you have to understand that this kind of response is not atypical.
It was actually one of those amazing moments where an agent called me and said, I saw this documentary about Anita Hill and I think you should watch it because there might be a movie there. And it had been at Sundance a few years ago. And when I saw it, I felt like I wanted to know more about Anita, but I wanted to know more about Joe Biden and more about Clarence Thomas and just like,
by the way, can we take a minute to just give props to that incredible Joe Biden impersonation?
Crazy, right? Greg Kinnear is doing, I've actually had two people ask me if we lifted real audio of Joe Biden talking.
It sounds like
it's crazy.
Joe Biden dubbed over Greg Kinnear.
Yeah, and with that wig as well of the balding, it's pretty amazing.
So you see the documentary, like there might be a movie here.
Yeah, and then I found out another producer, sort of like you know, I think it's important to find somebody you can collaborate with. So Susanna Grant, who's a super fancy Oscar-nominated writer, had the same thought, like, oh, there's a movie here. And so I was like, let's work together.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's so funny, because I feel like a lot of the times when true stories are adapted, people that look like us are not the main people.
That's correct.
And so anytime like something happens with an Indian guy, maybe just like, this Indian guy did something, maybe there's a movie here.
There's a movie there. So true.
Anytime,
really
any
funny.
news story about an Indian guy, it's like, I mean, is there, I mean, I feel like there could be a movie in this.
And how did you guys wind up at Netflix?
For Master of None, I had a relationship with them.
From your stand-up.
From my stand-up.
Which was amazing.
And, you know, they really believed in us, and we're like, we'll go straight to series. We didn't have to do a pilot or anything like that. So that all really appealed to me, and you know, I feel like people at other networks are tired of people on Netflix talking about
how great they are.
Well, we just do it everywhere.
I feel the same way. I felt like working with HBO was like, it reminded me of doing, you know, those sort of gritty independent movies where everybody's really invested in telling a story, but you have a budget, you know, because in those independent movies we had Metro cards for a transportation department.
Wow.
But this was like a real budget to tell a story.
You seem very nice.
Oh, thank you. I'll admit I was a little worried. Some of my friends have racist grandmas.
Oh, I see. You assumed I was a racist just because I'm old. That's nice.
Well, now the tables have turned. I'm sorry.
So in your show, you talk a lot about auditioning. Do you hate auditioning?
I do. I never liked auditioning. And in that episode, there's a lot of things that I'm glad I put out there that I feel like a lot of other minority actors have told me like, oh, this so rings a bell. Like when you go into an audition room and you see a bunch of people that look like you, and you just start feeling like, oh, I'm not here
For me.
Yeah, I'm here because I fit what looks like the person they want in here.
Before Scandal, I was actually cast in 2 other pilots. Both went to series, but I was fired and recast. And for both, it was because they wanted me to sound more girlfriend, more like hood, more urban.
It's interesting, like every person that's not a straight white guy has their version of this.
That's
so
right.
you have like, hey,
That's
can
right.
you kind of, you know, speak a little more like how I think people that you
yeah,
look like
yeah.
speak?
I've had people, friends of mine say they're tired of gay face, and I was like, "What's gay face?" And I was like, "It's the gay version of blackface. Like,
Wait,
come in and be more like effeminate."
Gay it
I
up
was
a
like,
little bit.
"What?" Yeah.
Well, you know, we have a character in our show, Denise, who's African American lesbian woman, and I was like, I want you to like really make this character. Like we didn't write it for. We wrote it like kind of neutral, like it could be anybody. It was a woman, but it didn't have any ethnicity or anything really specified. But I told her like, hey, like let's really make this character you, and a lot of people are like, oh, it's really authentic. It's like, yeah, because it's just her. Like the way she dresses, that's how she dresses in real life. Like
that.
I worked with her on the dialogue and everything to like make it very authentic. And I feel like a lot of times people don't do that, and then you end up with other people's perception of what certain people are like, and it's not. It's
That's
insulting to
awesome.
the actors.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Is it weird to work with your parents on the show?
It was very weird, but it was great. It was really
I would
surreal.
never be that courageous to have my parents on anything I was working
You know,
on.
looking back, it's really insane how confident I was that it would work out, and that I was allowed to do it. That no one along the line was like, "Your parents can't act in the show. Your dad can't be in like 4 episodes." But
great.
Alan knew my dad, so he knew my dad was very funny, and my parents, their performance is excellent because that's exactly how they are in real life.
That's amazing.
That's exactly how they are. My dad is exactly that goofy. And, you know, I feel like when you're trying to get those kind of natural performances, if people can just kind of turn off and forget they're being filmed and just be themselves, you can get those very natural performances from non-actors. And I think that's what we got. But it was interesting. You know, they had fun at first, but then, you know, we would start doing a lot of coverage and then be like, we're doing this again?
yeah, of course. I once had my parents' background in a movie I was doing, and they were like, why are we
Wait,
still
you had your
here?
parents' background?
I did. They played like my parents at a wedding that I was getting married, so no lines. But they were, you know, they were politely throwing rice at the beginning of the day. By the end of the day, they were like trying to get it in my eye. They were so mad.
Yeah, you should have known that wasn't going to be fun for them.
Yeah, not fun.
Yeah, but it was really fun working with them, and I think they got better as we went along. And my dad's already pitching a lot of season 2 storyline ideas.
Of course.
My mom has already said she will never be in the show again.
So they'll have to get divorced on the show.
Yeah.
What so far has been your proudest moment as an actor?
They just sound so grandiose. Those
Yeah. For what do you think you most deserve awards? Yeah, take a moment. Because you're about to be very self-aggrandizing.
I don't know. There's no way to answer that without sounding like a weirdo. But
I agree.
I was just happy to make the show and to have so many to be able to wear so many hats and to direct it and to produce it and to act in it and write and everything and to make something that I'm proud of and that my friends like. I feel like that's all I ever try to do in my work is just make something that I can show to other people and be proud of and I'm happy with the show.
Yeah.
And for you?
I was thinking the same thing, like just getting it done.
Yeah.
I just feel like, you know, my whole life I've been in acting classes with people who are more talented than I am, or like you know how lucky we are, you know, to be here. So I just feel like anytime I get it done, whether it's a season or, you know, getting confirmation done, just to know that it's finished and it's something that I'm proud of.
Yeah,
and that just feels like such a great accomplishment. And I love, it's weird, but as an actor, I love giving being in a position now where you give other actors an opportunity to work. Like, that's so exciting to be able to call Jeffrey Wright or Jennifer Hudson, people who I have admired and respected for so long, and say I want to play, come play, and we'll pay you, we'll actually pay you.
They got a white guy to play an Indian guy?
With the Robot movie? With Johnny Five?
Wait, you don't know this?
Wait, which Indian guy are you talking about?
Dude, the Indian guy is a white guy. That's Fisher Stevens. They use brown face makeup.
Wait, what?
Tell me about a challenging moment that you've had as an actor and how you got through it, like journaling, long walks, shrink sessions.
Challenging moments. Well, I think doing Master of None, there was definitely more dramatic stuff than I'd done in my other work, and I felt in my heart I'd be able to pull it off, but sometimes I would read the scripts and be like, I hope I can sell this, and but I really worked with the other actors a lot. I did a lot of rehearsals. We would do things like, a lot of the work I did with the woman that played my girlfriend in the show, Noelle Wells, we would do a lot of rehearsals. I would just throw out the script and I would say, okay, let's just use this as a prompt. Let's just say we're having sex on the condom breaks, and we would just improvise and record it and do that over and over again and use that to rewrite the scripts and really find real moments.
Wow.
And so we worked really hard to find those kind of bigger dramatic moments and to make everything feel real. So I think the show overall was a challenge for me because I'd never done anything where I was in everything like that and had those dramatic moments as well. And I think I was able to get through it through the help of Alan, my co-creator and co-EP, and the other actors on the show. I think they're the ones that helped me get through it, and I think it all turned out well.
That's very cool.
What about yourself? What was a challenging moment for you?
I think I really loved your answer. I think for me it was a little bit tricky. It's sort of similar to what you're saying, but there was a moment when I had to really take off the producing hat. Like, you know, I'd worked really hard in the first third of making the movie to fight for a balanced story where you really felt pulled not only in the direction of Anita, but where you really felt pulled toward Clarence Thomas and Joe Biden, all of the players, like just making sure that it was fair and that everybody was three-dimensional and that we weren't playing these kind of political, iconic caricatures, but that we were real people, you know? And then there was that point where it was like, okay, now I'm sort of avoiding the difficult, painful acting of being Anita Hill by like going over the schedule with the line producer. Like I have to really now take off the producing hat and focus on going to that place that she was in. And it was scarier than I thought it was gonna be. But exciting also to be able to learn how to kind of take that hat on and off as a producer and actor.
Yeah. It's sometimes it's easy to forget, like, oh, I've got to be in these scenes too.
Yeah, like I can't just focus on the rewrite. I have to memorize the lines. Like I have to. But so rewarding, because I agree with you. I feel like if I definitely feel like I'm at that point where it's nice to not have to sit at home and wait to be invited to the party, but to be creating work for yourself.
Yeah, you can't wait for anyone to open the doors for you.
Yeah.
Especially, I think, if you're not the people that are in all those stories that happen all the time.
That's right.
You gotta like really create your own doors.
Yeah.
Truth by saying that supporting me is synonymous with supporting lynching?
No.
He is not,
I'm not trying
the
to say that.
victim here.
I'm not trying to say that
Then what are
either.
you trying to say,
Wait,
Charles?
Listen, white folks are already talking this bullshit that this can't be about race because you're both black, right?
I mean, I feel like everybody's talked so much about how there's more diversity on TV than in film, but I don't really understand why. Do you?
I don't know. If I had to guess, I'd feel like there's more diverse creators. There's just more TV shows that are made more.
Oh, there's more channels. There's more options.
Yeah,
it's not
I feel
as
like,
precious in a way.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I mean, our show, it's Indian guy, Asian guy, so there's gonna be more Indian people, Asian people. We have a diverse group of friends, and we didn't really even think about it when we were making the show that, oh, this is diverse. We were just like, well, this feels real to have like this group of people sitting around, you know. But I don't know why it's not more why it's taken off a little more in TV than film. But if I had to guess, I'd say there does seem to be more diversity in the creators and people that are
for sure.
making stuff.
For sure,
maybe.
people who are making decisions. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you ever see this chart? I saw this chart in the New York Times about like decision makers, like the gatekeepers in every single industry, and it was like all white people.
Yeah,
And there
it
like,
came out right after Oscars So White, and I love that they did it because there was all this attention on
everything is
Hollywood,
so
but it was
white.
like, no, every industry
There's like
is so
one like
white.
Indian lady that like does something at Coca-Cola. I was like, I don't even know this person.
That's right. That's because she works in the Southeast Asian region, probably.
I don't
We
even
love
get
you. You might
hookups
not. You
on
might
Coca-Cola.
represent North America.
Yeah, then I
it's
thought
pretty
about like
intense.
all the people that have helped me in my career. I was like, man, it's pretty much all white people.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
But you know, I think me and Alan worked our way up through the system and now are able to be in place. You know, one thing I've thought about is from going from season 1 to season 2
Yeah.
is like you're saying, like now we're in a position to help other people.
Yep.
And in season 2, I've been like, well, I've got to just do even more and find even more actors of color and writers of color and foster the talent myself. Like
Yeah.
I've seen, you know, I'm friends with Chris Rock, and I've seen how he really
He does.
takes that initiative to foster
He really does,
talent
young
and to
talent.
look out for people. And I think it's really important. It's kind of a responsibility we have once we kind of get to a certain place to look out for people. And I've really tried to do that before we start season 2 of my show.
That's awesome. I noticed you had an episode, 2 episodes were directed by a woman, right? Also, that's pretty
Yeah,
great.
Lynn Shelton, yeah.
Awesome. Had you
great.
directed before?
I hadn't, and I wasn't 100% sure I'd be able to do it, but I was like, you're just telling people what to do. And I knew the show, and I knew the tone I wanted, so, and I
You
watched.
know the crew.
Yeah, I knew the crew really well, and I did the episodes I did were the 2nd episode and the 6th episode, or 5th episode, I don't know. The parents wanted the one where we go to Nashville, but we shot them at the end.
Right.
So by then, I'd really gotten to know the show, had a great relationship with the crew, watched all the other directors we had, James Ponsoldt, Eric Wareheim, Lynn, and really learned a lot from watching them. I knew the actors really well, so I was in a place where everything was kind of set up.
Do you want to do more of that?
Yeah, I loved it, because
Yeah.
you could get it exactly how you want it. And you know, once you sit in the edit room and you know like what you want to have in there when you go in, it just makes directing so much easier. And I'd been in edit rooms a lot, so
Yeah.
that was like a good training ground in a sense for directing, because I'd been on the other end of it at that phase. So I think I had all the tools ready, and yeah, it was really fun. I really enjoyed it.
I loved being part of the editing process. I didn't know how much I was gonna enjoy that, but I loved sort of learning how much of the story you're telling in editing, how much you can change the story, what the audience is receiving from picking different shots and perspectives.
Yeah.
It was really exciting for me.
Come on, Denise, people don't get that fired up about racist Asian or Indian stuff. I feel like you only really risk starting a brouhaha if you say something bad about black people or gay people. I mean, if Paula Deen had said, I don't want to serve Indian people, no one would really care. They just go back to eating the biscuits.
I love that you called yourself a feminist on your show.
Oh yeah, well, not on the show Arnold does,
Yes.
but I guess Dev is as well.
You sort of, you sort of
yeah.
proclaim yourself a feminist,
Yeah,
and then get
sure.
fired for it.
Yeah, well, kind of. Yeah.
How do you feel working in sort of issues around gender, being that it's, you know, another kind of disenfranchised community, but not necessarily your own?
I really wanted to do that episode because I just think those conversations are very interesting, and I feel like a lot of times that dialogue doesn't happen between men and women sometimes. I think sometimes women talk about that amongst other women, and I think a lot of guys aren't in the loop all the time. And like, for example, I think like, oh, guys know like, oh yeah, women are followed and maybe harassed at work, but it's pretty crazy. If one time I was sitting in a car with like 4 women, and somehow like sexual harassment in the workplace came up. Very chill hang. But they each started telling stories. I was like, oh, has anything ever happened at work? And they each started telling stories, and I was like, well, I assumed there was some of this, but I did not realize that all of them would have
extent.
such intense stories as they told.
Yeah.
And hearing that, and I've been in those kind of conversations, and the character in the show is a very curious, inquisitive person, and it fit in with what we do on the show. And yeah, it was great watching your movie because when that all happened, I was pretty young and I wasn't really aware of it at all, really. I just kind of knew the names.
Right.
But to watch it and then see the credit sequence is so powerful, it really made it clear like how important that story was to tell, and how I never realized like, oh, that was how these ideas of sexual harassment in the workplace became so mainstream. I really had no clue that that was where the seed was planted.
Oh,
and
I'm so glad that was your
yeah,
reaction.
because I think sometimes on every TV show, you know how the first day you have to watch
you
this
have
video
the
and everyone's like, oh, we gotta
harassment training.
watch this thing. And
You don't realize where it started.
yeah, and then you're like, oh man, probably should watch these videos.
I should take
maybe
this
not,
video
maybe not all of
seriously.
us need to see it, but there's a couple of people that definitely need to be
That's right.
told. Like, yeah, you don't do that.
Yeah, and it's funny because we've been talking a lot in our most recent harassment training at ABC. There's a lot of talk about how it's not just sexual harassment, it's harassment, like anything that makes somebody feel less than because of who they are. So not just gender, but gender identity or sexuality or even politics. It made me think like, oh, you have to be careful that people have other beliefs and they can't feel like they don't belong because of them. Just that idea of being sensitive to the needs of others in the workplace is huge and important. I think it's one of the great things about being a person of color or being somebody who's sort of moving their way up and giving more opportunities is you have personal context to say, oh, I know what that feels like and I don't want to make anybody else feel the way I've been made to feel because I'm a woman or because I'm a person of color.
Yeah.